Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the session. I think for the online, hope my voice is clear for you. Can you please confirm and chat? Great. Okay, so we can start now. In the last class, which topic we have discussed? Project we discussed. Projector not on, na? Fine. So how many of you done the project? Got the outputs, huh? Happy? Of course, happy. Okay. How many of you done the project but haven't got the output? Raise your hands. Project तो try किए but लेकिन output नहीं आया. कौन सा logo? Tapas, you haven't got the output. And uh, copy paste किए. uh, किसका बारे में बोल रहे हैं? कंपोज के बारे में. पाइथन क्यों आता है इसमें? Python, no. Basically, see, that is a different compose file, and you need to write some different compose file. Man, you need to change the images and volumes, man. You simply copy paste it, right? But tell me one thing, whatever the image name I have given, have you given the same image name? Then how it will come? You forgot, huh? Don't worry. Next time, acha try karo. Huh? God bless you. Fine. Okay. And one more thing is sorry for the people who pinged me from last couple of days. Why? Because I was so busy with some works. That is the reason I'm not able to reply for you. I hope you understand. Like in Telegram, I'm seeing a lot of messages, but I was not active like previously. Like I got some of the other works actually. That is the reason. Hope it's understand for everyone. Okay. It's not started yet. It will start. Because I'm not telling anything here. So from today onwards, we are going to start the devil of DevOps. Devil of DevOps actually. That is what we can call as Kubernetes. Which one? Kubernetes. I'll ask you a question. Before I start Kubernetes, I would like to know one thing from you. Like how many of you feel like Kubernetes is very easy and how many of you feel it is very difficult? Just raise your hands. How many of you think Kubernetes is very difficult? One. Okay, 4, 5, 6. And all and what about you guys? How many of you think K-Days is difficult? Oh, lot of people. Fine. Okay. Let's see how the Kubernetes, is it going to be easy or is it going to be difficult? Let's see. It is difficult also. No worry because Ram sir is here. Huh? Nice. Okay. Before that, I would like to ask you one more question also. Is it not turned on? Huh? Like what's happened to this? Oh, you need to switch on there first. Wait. You see. Okay, it will come. Wait, don't worry. So before I start the Kubernetes, I would like to ask you one more question also, both online and offline. Like how many of you are married here? Raise your hands. Married. Okay, online, like especially. You also raised the hand, eh? Okay. Like none of you married are from both online and offline. Okay, offline I'm seeing two couple of people are married, and from online. Siraj, what about you? Huh? You also don't know, na? Hmm. Okay. The reason I am asking you is, guys, I am telling you, if you are married, then Kubernetes is not difficult for you. I am telling you why, because if you are married, you know how to deal with these people. If you know how to deal with these people, then dealing with Kubernetes is not a very difficult task, as per my understanding. Sir, which one is difficult, sir? Understanding a goal mindset or understanding the Kubernetes issues? Correct or not? That is the reason I am telling Kubernetes is gonna be very, very easy. Jokes apart, I'm kidding. Just to make feel free to understand Kubernetes easily. Okay. So, guys, I'm telling you, you are married, sir, with 3 kids also. Okay, fine. So here, the first thing I'm gonna start with intro. But before intro, we need to make this running. I am turning it on from last 5 minutes, but the projector is not running. I think it will on now. Wait. That's the reason, sir. Like we said something. Let's. That's the reason, sir. Teaching is very well. Okay. Okay. I think it is like. Is it fine for you now? It's gone. Wait. Fine now. Okay. So guys, let's start the Kubernetes now. So basically, the first thing I want to tell for you is Kubernetes is the advanced version of Docker Swarm. Which version? Already, sir, we learned the Docker Swarm, right? But what is the reason why we are going to use Kubernetes in real time? Means Docker Swarm will be having hell lot of limitations. Docker Swarm is having what? Lot of limitation. The first limitation is gonna be this one. Wait, let me show you. First limitation is going to be Docker Swarm cannot do auto scaling. Auto scaling means, can Docker Swarm increase the pods automatically, or do we need to give command? First one. Second one, can Docker Swarm automatically distribute the load to multiple pods? No. And third one, can Docker Swarm has default dashboard? We need to use third party application called Portainer. Fourth one, can we place a container on the required server? No, in Docker Swarm it is not possible. But in Portainer it is possible. Of course, again, Portainer is not a inbuilt tool of Docker. And again, Docker Swarm is only used for easy application. But if the application is very difficult or very big and very complex, then Kubernetes is not going to work with it. These are the first 5 points you need to fix on your brain. Point number one, we cannot do auto scaling. We cannot do load balancing. We cannot have default dashboard. We can't place the container on the required server. And it is easy to use it like easy application only. But complex applications can we able to build? No. So these are the limitations. Now tell me, having these many limitations, can we run Docker Swarm in real-time production environments? No. So then definitely we need to search for alternative. That alternative is nothing but your Kubernetes. Okay. So now let's understand how the Kubernetes comes into the market. Okay. And how it is going to work. This history I'm gonna explain with a short story actually. And again, in today's class, we have a lot of stories to discuss. If you want to understand Kubernetes, you need to listen to my stories first. Of course, these are technical stories only. Okay. Fine. Sir, you know Google? Google have a lot of applications, right? Correct or not? So I'm going to ask some random persons. You need to tell what are the application that is maintaining by Google. So I don't know like whom I'm going to pick it up. Tapas, first of all, I'll start with you, man. Tell me one application of Google. Gmail. Okay, fine. So first of all, you said what here? Gmail. Let me make some copies of it. One by one, man. I will come. I'll come one by one. Okay. Huh? No need to rush. So like I'm having some bunch of things here. Let me do copy and paste. I'll do copy paste. Okay. So first of all, Tapas is saying that Gmail, right? Tapas? Google Mail. Okay. So next, Siraj, what about you? Google Photos, Google Drive, Google Maps. Okay. And next, where is Sukant? Sukant नए class में? नया है, okay. And you, tell me one application of Google. Very man. I'm asking about applications maintained by Google. Huh? Google Pay. Okay, somebody gave the answer. Okay, fine. Next, Kantima, you tell me. What is the application? Phone Pay na? Tell me one Google application, ma. What you are using in daily life? Google Pay हो गया ना? हाँ, और? Google Classroom. Daily you are checking the Google Classroom, huh? Okay. Google Chrome. Okay. YouTube. Google Lens is there, na? Our last two pending. Google Meet is there. And last one is gonna be Google Translator. We have Translator. We have, right? Or Google Keyboard. Let's take Google Keyboard. Sir, how many applications you are seeing here? 10 applications. But is Google running only these 10 applications? No, Google is having some hundreds of applications. How many applications? To run these hundreds of application, Google need to have hundreds of servers. Can we maintain hundreds of servers in real time? Of course, we can maintain, but it is going to take a lot of human power, lot of time, and lot of automation is going to be required. Correct or not, sir? So instead of maintaining them in the servers, Google decided to create its internal system called Borg. Which one it is? Borg. B-O-R-G, we can call this. Can call this Borg or Borg, anything is fine. Okay. So these people created the internal system called Borg, which can manage some hundreds of servers in the real time for some hundreds of applications. Okay. So what they thought is instead of maintaining the application servers, if they maintain the application containers, their work will be going to be very easy or not, sir? That is the reason they created the internal system called Borg. The applications are running very smoothly. But Google is very kind-hearted. You know why it is kind-hearted? They created the own internal system called Borg, and they thought that currently we are using the Borg very efficiently. But it is only used for Google applications. But like Google, there are a lot of applications in the market. I mean, like a lot of companies in the market, which is having some hundreds of applications. Let's say Amazon is having a lot of applications. Correct or not, sir? Like that. So other companies are also going to have a lot of applications in the market. If we only use Google Borg, okay, only we are going to beneficial. But if it make free to everyone, everyone can use and solve their problem or not, sir? So with a lot of kind-hearted, Google donated the Borg to an organization called CNCF. Which organization? CNCF stand for Cloud Native Computing Foundation. What is the work of this CNCF? You know, they make the improvising of existing features in the cloud itself. Yes, CNCF organization. It is very famous actually. Okay. Google donated the organization to where, sir? CNCF. So from the Google Borg, it initially started in 2014. So CNCF taken it on 2014 itself. At the same year, it has taken 2014. I mean, like Borg was created before 2014. I can say it as before 2014. Okay. But it got acquired by CNCF in the year 2014. From the year 2014, CNCF is maintaining the Borg system, but with the name called Kubernetes. With which name? Initially, Google given the correct name called Borg, but after coming to the CNCF hands, they have renamed the Borg to which name, sir? Kubernetes. Which name? Kubernetes. And the reason why they have renamed the word Kubernetes, you know, there is a special reason for it. The meaning of Kubernetes in Greek word is called as pilot, or you can call it as hailsman. Halesman means like Johnny Depp driving the ship, captains. We can call them as halesmen actually. Okay. The reason, wait. Okay, these given inputs are fine. So if you go and see, if I type the Docker logo versus Kubernetes logo. Okay, there is a long story for it actually. You can see here, if I go to the images, you can see this one. Sir, Docker is a ship with a lot of containers. Correct or not, sir? You already know Docker is a ship with a lot of containers. But in order to control this ship, we need to have a steering. What is the Kubernetes logo here? Steering. That means Docker will create containers, but those are going to be controlled by the Kubernetes. That means to control the ship, we need to have steering or not, sir? That is the reason why these are going to have these logos. Docker will have a ship logo with lot of containers, but to control that ship, we are going to use Kubernetes. And the word Kubernetes come from which word, sir? Greek word. So it is called as pilot, or you can call it as Halesman. Initially, Borg was created before 2018, but it came to the Kubernetes in the 2015 actually. Okay. So this is the actual history. Whatever the content I have written here, that I have explained through the pictures format. Now coming to the intro part, basically Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration platform. It's open source, free, and lastly, platform independent. And finally, very importantly, so it is a fixed template for all of you. So the main purpose of Kubernetes is to automate manual process like deployment, managing, and scaling. So in Docker Swarm, we haven't deployed a application and we haven't scaled. We just deployed the application automation, but have we scaled them? But Kubernetes can scale the application and can do load balancing also. Okay. So Kubernetes was developed by Google programming language called Go. Initially, members of Google team create the cluster to use the multiple application in the Google with the name of Borg. But Google went to the Borg to CNCF in 2014, and first version of Kubernetes came into the market in 2015. So there is a small thing here you need to understand. Kubernetes version 1. So if you go and see, these are the releases actually. Of course, you can type our releases. You can see if you click on the release page, currently you are using 1.30. Which release? But if you go back, there are a lot of releases actually. So if we go to Kubernetes release history, and the latest version of Kubernetes is called as Mandala. Kubernetes latest version name is called as Mandala. Mandala. Okay, I'll show you. If I talk about Kubernetes 1.29 name, you can see it is called as Mandala. The meaning is the universe actually. Which one? If you see, it is a logo actually. It's like Bhuchakram. Bhuchakras, right? Like this. Okay. So these people will give names like this. Okay. So every version is gonna have different names itself. Okay. So if you go to Kubernetes release history from 2014. So the first version came in the market on which year, sir? July 21, 2000. It is the first version. Okay. Of course, announcement made in 2014 only, but release came in the 2000. That is a small thing you need to understand. A lot of people, if I ask when the Kubernetes got released, they'll tell 2014. 2014 announcement made, but 2015 release. Is a concept clear for all of you? It's just like Rajamouli film. Rajamouli make announcement now, but take the film after 5 years. Correct or not, sir? Same like Kubernetes also announced it on one year and release it on some other year. Like it. Fine. So now you have the history of Kubernetes. You have the intro of Kubernetes. Now the main point is how to understand the architecture of Kubernetes. You know Docker architecture, right? How beautiful the architecture is, sir. It is very easy, right? But I'll show you the Kubernetes architecture. I'll give you a couple of minutes of time. 2 minutes of time. Take your 2 minutes of time and just tell me what you understand with this diagram. Take your time. I'm muting the session here online. Just observe the diagram for 2 minutes and let me know what you understand after 2 minutes. think even NASA scientists won't discuss this much of thinking actually. Even when NASA scientists are releasing the rockets to the space station, right? They will do this kind of discussion only. The same discussion I'm seeing in you actually. Okay, think. Take your time, huh? Are you able to understand anything? Ille. Okay. Now see this diagram. I'm making it very easy. Now see this diagram and let me know. I'm giving the best option now. एक मास्टर दो वर्कर हो. हाँ. हाँ. Okay. So let me explain this concept in very easy. Forget about Kubernetes architecture. You know Docker Swarm architecture, right? In Docker Swarm, first of all, you have something called as cluster. Correct or not, sir? Inside cluster, you will have worker nodes. Inside cluster. Inside nodes, what you have? Containers. Inside containers, what you have? Application. Application or image or service, anything is fine. Is this architecture clear for you know? It is which architecture? Docker Swarm. That means first of all, you are having cluster. Inside cluster, you are going to have what? Nodes. Inside nodes, what you are having next? Containers. Inside containers, what you are having now? Application. Correct or not, sir? It is the architecture of which tool? Docker Swarm. Kubernetes architecture also same to same. First of all, you have container. Inside container, you have nodes. Sorry, container cluster. First of all, sorry, cluster. First of all, you are having cluster. Inside cluster nodes. Inside nodes, you are having containers. Oh wait, it's gone. Containers. Inside containers, I do have something called as pods. But the only, oh sorry, wait, I messed it up. Wait. Inside container, I have something called as application. Which one? Application. That means you are having almost all equal. Here cluster node container application. Here also cluster node container application. But the only difference is Kubernetes will have some additional component called pods. Which one? That is the only difference between Docker Swarm and in Docker Swarm cluster node container application. But in Kubernetes cluster node pods container application. If you can go and see, that is what you are going to see. First of all, cluster you are having. Inside cluster are using master and worker nodes. Inside nodes are using pods. Inside pod you have container. Inside container you have the application. This is the architecture of Kubernetes. Now is the Kubernetes architecture clear for all of you know when I compare with Docker Swarm? What is the additional component we have in Kubernetes? Pods. Again, tell me the architecture one more time. First of all, you will be having cluster. Inside cluster you have nodes. Inside nodes you are having pods. Inside pod container. Inside container application. Is it clear for all of you know? Online, can you please confirm is the architecture of Kubernetes clear for all of you know? Can you please confirm in chat box? Okay. So it was mostly clear for all of you. Great. Now I'm gonna make this Kubernetes architecture remember for your lifetime. I'm telling you, if you listen to the Kubernetes architecture now like, I'm gonna teach you one small what do you call this one shortcut. If I teach this shortcut, I'll tell you, you will teach the Kubernetes architecture for your grandchildren also. I mean, if you exist at that time. Okay. Sir, what is the shortcut means? Very easy. First of all, tell me one thing. I'll teach you the shortcut, but before shortcut, How many of you watch Telugu movies here? Raise your hands. Okay, at least do you know Megastar Chiranjeevi? Who is Chiranjeevi? No, right? If you know Chiranjeevi, Kubernetes is done. Trust me. Hey, wait, man. What I said here, if you know Chiranjeevi, then Kubernetes architecture is very, very easy. So in Chiranjeevi family, who is it, sir? Chiranjeevi, right? After Chiranjeevi, who is it here? Nagababu. After Nagababu, Pawan Kalyan. After Pawan Kalyan, Charan, Ram Charan, right? And finally, Allu Arjun. This is a family tree, right? If you go and see, here C for Chiranjeevi, that means cluster. What? Cluster. N for Nagababu, that means node. P for Pawan Kalyan, that means pod. C for Charan, that means container. And A for Allu Arjun, that is application. Now tell me, is Kubernetes architecture easy now? Can you remember it for lifetime now? To understand the Kubernetes architecture, what you need to remember? Chiranjeevi family. Now tell me, is Kubernetes really difficult now? Is it difficult now? So if you remember this architecture, that is going to be very, very easy. This is the path where a lot of people will forget in the interview time. If you don't know this clarity, you cannot go and give interview on the Kubernetes. But if you are very clear at this architecture, then giving the Kubernetes interview is going to be very, very easy. So is it clear for all of you now? How's the shortcut? Is it able to understand? Yeah. Online, how's the shortcut for you guys? Oh, yes, what? Inside the container, we do have the pod actually. Correct. అట్లా ఉంటుంది మనతోని. Okay, fine. Okay, sir. So here you've seen the architecture. Docker is like CNCA. Kubernetes is CNPCA. That means cluster, node, pod, container, and application. This is the architecture. When if you go and see, you can see the same architecture in the PDF actually. Now let's go and deep dive into each and every component of the architecture. In the component, first one is going to be master component. Second one is going to be the worker components. In master node, we will be having 4 components. Sir, how many components? Component number 1 is API server. API server purpose is to communicate with the user. If you execute a command, it will create the pod and tell you the pod is created. Just like your Docker CLI. In Docker client, what you do, sir, you will execute the command that will give you the output. So in Kubernetes also, if you want to communicate with your cluster, if you want to run any commands in your cluster, you need to interact with the API server. Second one is going to be etcd. You can call this etcd or you can call as etcd. The main function of etcd is to, if you create a pod inside your cluster, it is going to store the pod information. Or if you create a container in your cluster, it is going to store container information. Or if you create any XYZ component in your cluster, that is going to store the cluster information in the etcd. etcd is nothing but database of our cluster, which will store the complete information of the cluster in the key value pair. Which pair? That means an AML structure, you can call it as. Again, API server main purpose is to communicate with user. Take the command, execute it, and gives you the output. Second one, etcd. etcd is database of the cluster. It stores the complete information of the cluster in the key value pair. Third one is gonna scheduler. Scheduler main purpose is to select the worker node. See, I want to create a pod actually. Remember, in Kubernetes, you don't create containers, you will create only pod. Pod itself will create container. Is the logic clear for you? In Docker, we create containers, but in Kubernetes, what you're gonna create? Pod. Pod itself will create a container. So scheduler main purpose is to select the worker nodes. For example, if you go and see, here I have 2 worker nodes, sir. How many worker nodes? I am the DevOps engineer. I asking the API server to create a pod. So API server will take the command and it will give to the scheduler actually. Now scheduler main purpose is to, I have 2 worker nodes. It is gonna select the best worker node. How it will select the best worker node means, worker node 1 is having 1 CPU, but worker node 2 is having 2 CPUs. Which one is better? Worker node 1 is having 1 GB of RAM, but worker node 2, which one is better now? Second one. So scheduler will select the worker nodes based upon the hardware properties. Which one? properties. And final one is gonna be controller. Controller main purpose is to control the Kubernetes object. What is the main purpose? Kubernetes. Like in Kubernetes, we have network, we have services, we have master node and worker node. Each of the component in Kubernetes will be controlled by controller. So these four together, what do we call as master node components? Again, I'll explain one more time. Let's make it on scenario based. My goal is to create a pod. My goal is to create a, I'm going to make it on scenario based. I'll ask questions, you tell me the answer. Okay. My goal is to create a pod. So when I want to create a pod, I need to run the command. So which component will take commands from the user? API server. Correct. So API server. The main purpose of API server is to take the command, execute and gives you the output. So after API server take the command, now I want to place the pod on worker node 2. Now which component will schedule the worker node 2? Scheduler, correct. Now after scheduling the pod on worker node 2, I want to store the pod information on my cluster. Which component will do it? etcd. Which one? etcd main purpose is to store the data. And finally, I want to control the Kubernetes object. Which component I need to use now? Controller. Is it clear now? That's it. So these are the four different components of the master node. So is the master node components clear for all of you know? Online, can you please confirm me? Is the master node components clear for all of you? Can you please confirm in chat box? Fine. So now we have the one more component called worker node. In worker node, you have kubelet. What do you have? Kubelet is an agent. Kubelet is an, that means it will do inform all the activities to master. For example, what is my primary goal? I want to schedule a pod. Schedule a pod. So already in the master node, we have seen four components, API and everything. For example, let's take worker node. It is my master node. Okay. And it will be my worker node. For example, let's take, I'm going to take some different color for worker node. Okay. So the moment if I place a pod from master node to worker node, so here my pod is going to create. Let's take it is my pod actually. It is my, whenever I create a pod, okay, agent will tell to master node, a pod is created on worker node. Or if I delete the pod in the master node, again this agent will go tell to master node, this pod got deleted on the worker node. Again, if I restart the pod in the worker node, again it is going to tell to master node, a pod got restarted in the worker node. That means whatever the things you are doing on the worker node, that will be intimated to master node with the help of the component called kubelet. Which one? Simply in our childhood days, we have a special person in our class, teacher's pet, you know. What is the work of teacher's pet? Inform everything to the teacher, correct or not, sir? Unfortunately, for example, today we have a birthday in our class, one of the girl birthday. You are looking to that girl. Why? Because you want to get the chocolate from her. Now what this teacher pet is doing? Teacher pet is gonna tell the teacher, Tapas is saying to the girl, from starting from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the class. I don't know why these people are seeing each other. He's going to inform or not, sir? Or even if Tapas is talking to any other girl in the class, again, this teacher pet is going to tell, teacher, Tapas is talking to all the girls in the class. He is disturbing the whole class. He's going to inform or not, sir? Similarly, in the same way, whatever the objects you are going to do in the worker node, everything is going to inform to the master node with the help of kubelet. And one of the primary function of the kubelet is to create the pod. Kubelet is the whole and soul component to create the pod, and inside the pod container also going to create by the kubelet only. So remember, it's going to be interview question. Which component Kubernetes will create the pod? Kubelet. Which one? Kubelet. Second one is going to be kubeproxy. Kubeproxy will deal with the networking rules actually. So cluster means lot of nodes. So for each and every node, we need to establish communication or not, sir? That communication will be established by the kubeproxy by providing the IPs for pods, by providing the services, by providing the ingress rules. Lot of networking components we do have actually. And finally, there is one more major component called pod. Pod is nothing but group of containers. If you want to create a container in the cluster, you need to create a pod. The pod itself will go and create the, and inside that pod only we have the application. So these three will be the components of worker node. Kubelet. Kubelet is an agent. What is the primary functionality of kubelet? Inform everything to the master as well as it will create the pod. And what is a pod here? Pod is a group of containers which have the application. Kubelet, kubeproxy. What is the purpose of kubeproxy? It deals with the networking. So these 7 components together what we can call as Kubernetes cluster. First of all, tell me what is the first component? API server. Second one is etcd. Third one is scheduler. Fourth one is controller. Fifth one is kubelet. Sixth one is kubeproxy. Seventh one is going to be pod. So finally, tala for a reason. You know this meme? Whenever the word 7 comes, we have meme called tala for a reason, right? Here also tala for a reason actually. Okay, fine. So is the architecture of Kubernetes clear for all of you know? Everyone. Online, can you please confirm me components and architecture of Kubernetes clear for all of you? Can you please confirm in chat box? Okay, so it was very clear. Great. So now after the understanding of architecture, now we are gonna discuss about the cluster types actually. What we're gonna discuss about? So first cluster is gonna be self-managed cluster. Self-managed means we need to create and we need to, that means it is your whole and sole responsibility from creation to management. Okay. So in the self-managed, first of all, we begin with the Minikube. Minikube is a single node cluster. That means you have only one node. Inside that node only you have master node and you have the worker node. Second one is going to be Kubedium, which is a multi-node cluster, but we don't use this on real time. Why? Because it's a manual process. Third one is going to be KOps, which is a multi-node cluster we can create with the automation help. Kubedium and KOps is a multi-node cluster, but which one we're going to prefer means KOps only. Why? Because KOps will do automation, but Kubedium is the entire manual process. That is a self-managed. That means we need to create and we need to manage. Next one is going to be cloud-based solution. That means our clouds like AWS, GCP, and Azure will provide some of the services for Kubernetes. Currently, which cloud we are using now? AWS. In AWS, we have a service called EKS, which stands for Elastic Kubernetes Service. I'll just show you the interface of EKS. That's it. So it is a service actually which help us to create the Kubernetes entire cluster. Okay. So this is going to be offered by AWS. Azure is also going to offer Kubernetes service that is called as AKS. AKS stands for Azure Kubernetes Service, and Google will offer GKS, which stands for Google Kubernetes Service. So these are the two different types. One is self-managed. Second one is going to be in self-managed. We need to create and we need to manage them. In cloud-based, we create them, but cloud will manage. But one of the disadvantage of using cloud-based, it is going to be cost-effective. Definitely need to pay some cost. Okay, like that. So apart from them, the first of all, we are going to start with which kind of cluster here? Minikube. If you ask me in real time, which one is the best Kubernetes cluster or which one is the most used Kubernetes cluster? There is no answer for it. Why? Because if your project is on AWS, you definitely need to use only EKS. Or if your project is on Azure, you definitely need to use. Or if your project is on GCP, definitely need to use GKS. So, and if you use KOps, you can use the cluster on AWS and you can use cluster on Google. Why? Because it is self-managed. That means you can implement this on any cloud actually. But apart from that, cloud is also going to provide some solutions. But one of the major disadvantages, we need to apply some cost for it, definitely. Okay. So in industry, lot of people for cloud-based, lot of people is using EKS, but self-hosted, lot of people are using KOps. These are the best two solution for the Kubernetes implementation. Is my point clear for all of you? The reason why I am telling is, if you go to interview for the experienced people, this question will come. Which is the best solution for implementing Kubernetes cluster? Damn sure question for the experienced people. So in that case, you need to tell it depends upon the cloud provider what you're gonna choose. If you use AWS, you can use EKS or you can use KOps. If you use Google, you can use GKS or you can use. And one more thing, KOps will not work on Azure actually. It won't work. So it depends upon your requirement. But cloud-based will have some cost, but a KOps is free and open source. The flexibility of KOps is it's free and open source. So the people from the online, is the point clear for you? Whatever I said for you know, can you please confirm in chat box? Okay. So first thing first, here we are going to start our Kubernetes class with the help of single node cluster. That is what we can call as Minikube. Which one? So basically, Minikube is a tool used to set up the single node cluster on Kubernetes. That means only one node. In that one node, you have API server, you have etcd, you have container runtime, you have pods, you have kubelet. Everything is running there only. Why? Because it's a only one node cluster. So in real time, we use it for developing and testing environments and for experimental purpose also. But in production, we don't use. Why? Because in production, do we run our application on single server? But whereas this Minikube is running on single server only. Okay, that is the reason we stick to development and testing areas in real time. Here, master and worker will run on the same mission. It is platform independent, and installing of Minikube is gonna be very, very simple when you compare with lot of other cluster types. So what is the note point I wanna say for you is, we don't implement this on real-time production. If you implement this on real-time production, Gaia, applications of Gaia. Why? Because it have only single server. Unfortunately, if you delete the server, what will happen? Application is completely collapsed. You don't have the backup also. Okay. So in real time, always we need to use high availability. What is the meaning of high availability? Huh? Maintaining more than one server. Why we need to maintain more than one server? If one got deleted, we have other. And these two servers need to be created on two different data centers. That means two different ACs. For example, if I create server 1 on US is to 1A, second one need to be US is to 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E. It doesn't matter. But both servers need to be on two availability zones. How many availability zones? Correct. So let's go and understand this Minikube one more time. So it's a tool used to set up single node cluster. And the best thing is here, we have master node and worker node running on the same mission. So it is used to have API server, etcd, container runtime, everything is there. So in real time, use it for deploying and testing purpose. And it is platform independent, but installing of Minikube is simple when compared with other tools. But in real time, do we implement this on prod? No. Why we won't implement? Because it's only single node. So is the introduction of Minikube clear for all of you know? Clear or not? Online, what about you guys? Is the intro clear for all of you? Can you please confirm in chat box? Okay. So now let's go and see the requirements of Minikube. So Minikube means we cannot create like a normal server. So definitely you need to use two CPUs for Minikube, and we need to use 2 GB of RAM, and we need to use 20 GB of EBS volume, and we need to have a strong internet connection, as well as we need to have a container engine like Docker, Rocket, everything. And one more thing, in interview they will ask you what are the other alternative for Docker. Other alternative for Docker is Rocket. What we call as Rocket. And there is one more tool called Containerd. And there is one more tool called CRIO. Okay, these are the alternative for Docker. So if you have a chance, write it somewhere. It's going to be interview question for the both fresher and experience. What are the alternative for Docker? Let me write it here for you. In the notes, I'll write it for you. Wait. Docker alternatives. Docker alternatives. Containerd is one of the alternative. And Rocket and CRIO. Okay, this will be the alternatives of Docker actually. So it's going to be interview question. So where I am. So these are the requirements: 2 CPUs, 2 GB of RAM, 20 GB of EBS volume, internet connection, and a container engine. So now what exactly I'm going to do is I'm going to create a EC2 instance based upon this requirement. Okay. So here I'm already having two servers. This I'm not using for this class. So I'm going to make it like delete. I don't want these servers. Why? Because this is it for some other class actually. So remove them. So I'm going to create a new server, but this time I'm taking Ubuntu image. Why? Because half of the course I'll teach on Red Hat, half of the course I'll teach on Ubuntu. Why? Because I want to cover both for you. Of course, anyways, in Linux, these both will be covered, but I want to cover from my side also. So I'm going to take the server name as Minikube. I'll take Ubuntu machine. You can take 22 or you can take 20, anything is fine. Okay. So instance type, can I use T2 micro? No, why? Because it comes with one CPU, 1 gigs of RAM. So I want to make 2 CPUs and 2 gigs of RAM, but T2 micro will come with 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM. Okay. Of course, it is gonna have some money cost, but we don't have any other alternative. We need to use that one only. Select a key pair, just like your normal one. So security, I'm just giving all traffic usually. And EBS volume size, how much? There you go. So now this is the way how I create the Minikube machine. Now in this Minikube machine, I want to install Minikube actually. Okay. But the installation process is pretty long actually, but I have a script. So in the script, you can take it and you can use everyone. So if you go to my GitHub all setups, GitHub Raham Sheikh all setups, there you can see at the last Ubuntu Minikube, are you seeing this one? It is a script actually what you're gonna use. The script seems to be very lengthy and you don't need to remember the step-by-step process like Jenkins and Docker. It is not required. Nobody is gonna ask you the show me how to set up the Minikube. Even if you ask me, I can't set up without seeing. The reason why, you know, if you go and see, apart from comments, are you seeing some links here? Who will remember the link, sir? Can you remember the link actually? Even I can't remember the link. Okay. So in real time, don't worry. These links will be provided by official documentation. So you need not to by heart the step-by-step process. Okay. So I'll simply copy them and I'll simply execute in my mobile extreme itself. But I'll explain the process once for your clarity. What is going to happen with the script? Keep it fine. You know ChatGPT? Hmm? Okay. In Kubernetes, we have something called as Kubernetes GPT. Which one? Kubernetes GPT will give the solution for Kubernetes problems from the ChatGPT backend with the help of an NLP programming language. So one of the best feature of learning Kubernetes with ChatGPT is using K8s GPT. Actually, it's not a part of your syllabus, but I'll cover for you definitely because it might be helpful for you in upcoming days. Sudo -a just to give VM minikube.sh. It is a script actually. So I'm gonna copy paste the script here straight away. And before I execute then, like I'll explain the script one time for you. So then we can go and we can run. So if you go and see the installation process here, I'm gonna tell the major steps what you're gonna use here. First of all, if you go and check, first path is to update the server. I'm using apt update and apt upgrade. In interview, they are going to ask difference between update and upgrade. What is the difference between them? I think in Linux, this point is covered for you. Covered at this point or not? Are you using Ubuntu there? Red Hat, RHEL. Okay, RHEL, fine. Update is the command which will give the list of packages to update, but it really won't update. If you want to really update them, you need to use. That is the difference. Update will show the list of packages which we have updates, but if you really want to update them, you need to run upgrade. That is the difference between them. Second one is to install Docker. So here I'm installing the Docker from the script actually. Why? Because apart from Docker, we need to use Docker Compose and some other Docker dependency also. So everything is given on the script. First of all, to download this script, I need to use curl command. So in Ubuntu, we don't have curl command. So I'm downloading the curl, wget and HTTPS commands to download the script. Once I download the script, I'm gonna execute the script to install Docker. Step number 3 is install Minikube. Already know if a command is in binary format, First of all, we download them, we give executable permission, and we move it to user local bin. So same like for kubectl also, we download them, we give executable permission, and we move it to user local bin. After doing for Minikube and kubectl, we are going to start the Minikube. What we are going to start? Minikube. So I'm going to start Minikube with the driver called Docker. Why? Because Docker is my container machine. So these are the 4 steps. Update the server, install Docker, install Minikube, install kubectl, and start the Minikube mission. And one more thing here, what is kubectl means? I'll tell you. Minikube is a tool for single node cluster, you know. What is the command to run commands on Docker? Docker command. To run commands on Ansible, which command we use? To run command on Maven, MVN. But to run command on Kubernetes, we don't have Kubernetes command. We need to use kubectl command. Which command? In Kubernetes, if you want to run any command, there is no such command called Kubernetes. We need to use kubectl. You can call this kubectl or you can call this kubectl. Anything is gonna be fine. So the installation process will take couple of minutes. So wait for the couple of minutes. So in the background, it is going to install. So don't worry about that one. So leave the process. So kubectl is the command line tool for Kubernetes. If you want to execute commands, we need to use kubectl. Without kubectl, you cannot execute any command on Kubernetes. That is the same script what I have given in the notes. So you can use the same script. And here already we discussed, if the command is on binary file, we need to move to user local bin and we need to give the this already said on Docker Compose, but now also I'm saving it here. Okay. So now once you install the cluster, inside the cluster, you're gonna create pods. Let's discuss what is a pod. Pod is the smallest unit of deployment in Kubernetes. That means in Kubernetes, you are going to deploy pod. Can we deploy containers? No, Kubernetes don't know who is container. There is a famous dialogue in a movie called Pokri. You know the dialogue? Evadra Alibi. You know the dialogue, right? There, that villain doesn't know who is Alibi. But here also, this Kubernetes doesn't know what is container. Kubernetes know only about pod. Kubernetes don't know and don't care what is container actually. Why? Because Kubernetes doesn't interact with containers. It can only speak with the pods like that. So it's the smallest unit of deployment in the Kubernetes. It's a group of containers actually. So pod means group of containers. And pod can be called as ephemeral. Ephemeral is nothing but short living objects. Which one? Short living objects. So mostly we can use single container inside the pod. But if there is a requirement, we can create multiple containers inside the pod. Let me show in the diagrammatical way. For example, let's take it's your cluster, sir. Okay. I'm going to show it live. It's your cluster. Inside this cluster, you are going to create a pod itself. What I'm going to create here? Pod. Let me take some other color. Pod. So inside the pod, you can basically in real time, we create only one container in real time. But if you want to create some other container also, you can create some other container. So like this, you can create 2 different containers inside the pod. Whenever if you create 2 containers inside the pod, these 2 containers can share same volume and same network. And same same namespace also. So this is when we create a pod, containers inside the pod can share the same network namespace and can share the same volume. But generally, how many pods, like how many containers we create per pod? 1. But if you have any requirement, then only you are going to create 2. If you create multiple pods inside the container, those can share the same network and same volume actually. While creating the pod, we must specify the image. That means you are creating the pod, but inside the pod, you are going to create container. To create a container, we need to have image or not, sir? So definitely we need to specify and we need to specify the resource configuration. If you don't provide the resource configuration like RAM and CPU, single pod can consume whole CPU and RAM or not, sir? Like that one. And next, Kubernetes cannot communicate with containers. They can communicate only with pods. So this is the intro about the pods in the Kubernetes cluster. Now again, pod is the smallest unit of deployment in Kubernetes. Is a group of containers. These are ephemeral, that means short living objects. Mostly we can use single container inside a pod. But if it required, we can create multiple containers inside the same pod. When we create a pod, containers inside the pod can have the same network and have the same volume itself. And while creating the pod, we need to specify image and along with the resource configuration like CPU, RAM, and everything. So Kubernetes cannot communicate with containers, they can only communicate with pods. So is the intro of pods clear for all of you know? Everybody. Online, can you please confirm, is the pod intro clear for all of you or not? Can you please confirm in chat box once? Okay, fine. So now coming to the pod, sir. Pod you can create on two different ways. How many ways? One is imperative way, second one is declarative way. Imperative means by using the command. Declarative means by using the manifest file. I'll tell you what is the meaning of manifest. Manifest is nothing but a text file. How you write your Ansible playbook? AML. How you write a Docker Compose file? In Kubernetes also, you are going to write the manifest file in the AML structure. So in real time, use imperative way, just like ad hoc commands. In Ansible, how use ad hoc command? For temporary works. Here also for temporary works in Kubernetes, we use imperative. That means you can create any resource through command. Second one is going to be declarative. Declarative means by using the. So as a beginner friendly, first of all, I'm going to show you how to use the imperative method. Okay. Then after that, I'm going to show you how to use the declarative method. But before that, while setting up the Kubernetes, you will get some pop-ups in the screen actually. Whenever you get a pop-up in the screen while setting the Kubernetes cluster, hit enter button. If you hit enter button, that is going to be go. In pink color, you are going to get a pop-up. So make sure you are going to hit enter button for it. Fine. So now the command I'm going to use now is kubectl. Which one? So if I want to list the containers, I can use docker ps. But here you need to get kubectl get pods. This is the command to list the pods. Currently, do you have any pod here? No. Give the command kubectl run. Name of the pod is going to be pod 1. That is the command to create the pod. Which command to create the pod? Kubectl. There docker run to create container. But here kubectl run in name of the pod. But I want to give image hyphen image. Let's take Siraj 321 movies latest. From this image, I want to create the pod. Is the pod created? You can see the pod with the name of pod 1 got created. How to list the pods again? Kubectl get pods. Are you getting the pod? This is the pod 1 by one. That means inside the pod, you try to create one container. That container is running and a container is on running status and it got created 12 seconds ago. You can use the command kubectl get pod also, which will give the same command and same output. And you can use kubectl get po also, same output. That means you can use kubectl get pods or kubectl get pod, or you can use kubectl get po. That means anything you can use with the same output actually. Sir, here though you are showing the pod name, but I want to see the IP address of the pod. What I want to see? And I want to see the node. That means this pod is running on which node? So you can use the command -o wide. What I can use -o? Are you seeing the pod IP address? And are you seeing it is running on Minikube node? So if I want to get IP address, I need to give -o wide. No, sir, I want to get complete information. So there we use inspect in Docker. But here we can use describe. Kubectl describe pod. Name of the pod is going to be pod 1. You can use pod po or pods, anything is fine. Are you getting complete end-to-end information of this pod? You can see what is the name of the pod? Pod 1. Are you able to see it? And it is the node, it is running on Minikube. It got started and so time. It is on running. So it is getting the image from Siraj account. Are you seeing Siraj account here, image ID? So you can see the container got ready and everything is successfully done. So describe is the command that is going to show the end-to-end information of a pod itself. And finally, if I want to delete the pod, instead of describe, put delete. What I want to do? Now automatically pod will be deleted. In Kubernetes, if a container, sorry, in Docker, if a container got deleted, automatically new container will spill up spin up or not, sir? But here it won't spin up. Why? Because we need to use some other concept called RS, which I'm going to discuss on upcoming classes for you. What is RS and how to use it? Now let me reshare the process one more time. How to create and how to do. I'll explain one more time. So now again, I don't have any pods. You can see kubectl get PO. Are you seeing any pod here now? Now let's create the pod one more time in the imperative method in order to get some more clarity. The command to run the pod is kubectl run. This time pod name I'm giving Raham. What I'm giving? Hyphen image. What is the image name I want to give? Siraj image you can give, or like you can take whatever image you want. It doesn't matter. So I'm taking Siraj image only. Again, latest. How to list the pods? Kubectl get. You can use pods, or you can use pod, or you can use PO. If I want to get the IP address, what I need to add here? Hyphen o wide. No, sir. I want to get the complete information. Kubectl describe pod. Name of the pod is Raham. Are you getting the complete info of the pod? In a similar way, if I want to delete the pod, what I can use kubectl delete pod name of the pod. Is the pod got removed now? That's it. So this is which way now? Imperative method. Which method? That means you are going to execute everything from the command. But there is one more method called declarative. Which one? Declarative means by using the manifest file, you are going to do everything. What is the meaning of manifest file? In Ansible, you call it as playbook. In Docker, you can call it as Docker compose. But in Kubernetes, you can call as everything is an YAML structure only. So declarative method means by using the file called manifest file, we're going to create the resource. So in the declarative method, you have 4 fields that is called as mandatory fields. Which one? In Kubernetes, there are some hundreds of resources what we can create. Okay, not hundreds of resources by default. Let me show. In Kubernetes, I'll show you how many resources we can create by default. kubectl API resources QWC-L. So in Kubernetes, totally 59 resources by default we can create. Of course, you can extend them also. To create any resource in Kubernetes, okay, we are going to use these 4 mandatory fields. First of all, let's take a file called pod.yml. Which one? Not only pod.yml, you can take abc.yml also. It's up to your choice. First of all, API version. In API version, we should be definitely capital. Next, kind. Third, meta, data. Fourth one is going to be spec. These 4 together, what we can call as mandatory fields in Kubernetes. That means create any resource in Kubernetes. It is the first 4 things you are going to write. For example, the reason why I tell this one, if you go for interview and if they ask you to write a manifest file for any of the Kubernetes resource, but you don't know, you forget that one. So in that case, first of all, write this 4. At least you can put something there, right? That's it. Okay. Of course, there is no shortcut for it. You need to remember. Okay. There is no AKMS, SMK. There is no such like shortcut like this. Fine. What is the first one here? API version. Second one, kind. Third one, metadata. Fourth one is gonna be these 4 together can be called as mandatory fields in Kubernetes. Without these 4 fields, can we write any manifest file? No. Correct. So for the pod, API version is V1. And remember, in API version, we should be capital. Some people will do mistake here. API version for pod is V1. Kind, what kind of object I'm creating? Pod. In pod, P should be capital. And in the metadata, I'm going to give the name of the pod. Name of the pod is going to be Raham itself. What is the name of the pod? Again, API version for pod is V1. Kind, what kind of object I'm going to create? Pod. Metadata, name of the pod is Raham. Are the first 4 lines clear for all of you now? Everybody. Online, can you please confirm me? Are the first 4 lines clear for all of you? Can you please confirm in chat box? I'll tell you. Okay, there is a method actually. So now coming to the spec. Spec stand for specification of containers. Spec stand for containers. For example, for container, what is the image you want to use for container? Siraj 321 latest. Next, after image, I want to give here container name. What is the name of the container? I want to give container. Even if you want to give port number, you can also give ports hyphen. You can give target port. So and so port number you can give, but I'm not giving here port number. Just I'm telling you. Okay, like that. You can give port number. You can give lot of things for the containers also. You can give CPU, memory, RAM also. You can give. So in the specification, I'm talking about containers. For container, this is so and so image, and for name of the container is gonna be. So these 8 lines is the simplest form of creating the pod in the Kubernetes manifest. So again, I'll explain thought time for all of you. First of all, API version is V1. Of course, this will change for each and every resource. I'll tell you how to remember this one. Kind of the object I'm creating pod. In the metadata, I'm giving name of the pod. In the specification, I'm writing about containers information. Container image is Siraj image with movies latest, and name of the container will be. So is manifest file clear for all of you know? Yes. So now save this manifest file. And here, basically, I have the manifest file. What is the name of the manifest file here? abc.yml. Now give the command kubectl. You cannot give run. Why? Because it's not imperative, it is declarative. So give the command kubectl, create the resource from the file called abc.yml. That means for the kubectl command, I am asking to create the resource from the file called abc.yml. Hit enter. Are you seeing the pod got created? What is the name of the pod? Ram. How do you list out the pod, sir? Kubectl get PO. How do you define the IP address of a pod? Hyphen O. How do you describe the complete information of pod? Kubectl describe pod. Here I am not giving the name, but even though if you don't give name, it will come. If you don't specify the name also, it will come for the describe. Are you getting complete information of pods now? And finally, if I want to delete that one, what I can use kubectl delete. For delete, you need to give the pod name, okay? Definitely. That is gonna be Raham itself. That's it. So this is the declarative approach. Which approach? What is the advantage of declarative approach? You know, declarative approach, you already have the file. You can reuse the file for 100 times, but in imperative, we need to run the command every time or not, sir? That's it. So these are the 2 different ways what you are going to create the pod. Again, tell me what is a pod, sir? Pod is a smallest unit of deployment in Kubernetes. It's a group of containers. Generally, how many containers we can create in the pod? 1. If you want, can we create more containers? If I have more containers inside the pod, what will happen? Same volume and same network will be shared. Kubernetes communicate with pods or containers? Pods, and pods will communicate with container. Inside the container, what you have? Application. So this is the whole and soul concept of the Kubernetes intro for day 1. So now, before going for doubts and queries, first of all, we'll go for the interview questions from the Kubernetes point of view. So in the Kubernetes point of view, first of all, what is the difference between Docker Swarm and Kubernetes? It's the first question for you. Docker Swarm will not have auto scaling, will not have load balancing, will not have graphical user interface. We cannot place the container on specific node, and we don't have the easy application. I mean, like difficult application, we cannot host. That is the difference between Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. And what is Kubernetes now? It's a container orchestration tool, which is free and open source, given by the which company? Google, but maintaining by CNCF, right? Explain the Kubernetes architecture. First of all, start with cluster. Inside cluster, what you have? Nodes. Inside nodes, pod. Inside pod, container. Inside container. Explain the components of master and worker nodes. In master node, first component is API server. Purpose of API server is to communicate with the user. Correct or not, sir? Yes. Second one is going to be etcd. Purpose is to show the data of the cluster. Third one, scheduler. Select the worker node to place the pod. Fourth one is going to be control the objects. And coming to worker node, kubelet. It's an agent. Inform everything to master and create the pods. Next, kubeproxy. Deals with networking. Next, pod, which is nothing but group of containers. And next question is gonna be, where is this one? What is kubectl, sir? It's a command line tool to perform commands with the Kubernetes cluster. And how many type of Kubernetes cluster we have? Two. One is self-managed, second one is cloud-based. So what is the pod in Kubernetes? Smallest unit in Kubernetes is gonna be pod. So which is nothing but group of containers, which we already seen. And what is Minikube, sir? Minikube is a single node cluster where you have only one node. Okay, and what are the requirement for Minikube? Two CPUs, 2 gigs of RAM, 20 GB of EVS volume, and Docker install, and internet connection also. And finally, in Kubernetes, how many ways you can create a resource? Two ways. What are those? Imperative and declarative. So this is the concept of day one in the Kubernetes. Now, before going for doubts and queries, my first question for all of you. How's the Kubernetes day one for all of you? Is it easy for all of you? Able to understand? Online, can you please confirm me how's the class for all of you today? Can you please confirm in chat box once? I would like to get response from all of you online, okay? It was clear for everyone. Great. So now guys, online, if you are having any kind of doubts or queries, you can raise your hands, and offline, you can go ahead with the doubts and queries. If you are having any kind of queries or today's topic in Kubernetes or like whatever topics in the last class also, you can go and you can ask me now. And the drawback of pod is, guys, once we delete the pod, we can't retrieve the pod actually. So solution for this drawback, we are going to see in tomorrow's session. Okay. Okay. What is the meaning of darja? I don't know the word. Means state. Darja means status actually. In a Muslim, there is a word called darja, that is status actually. I know that one. Means good, huh? Okay, I don't know the word, meaning of that word. Fine. It is very good in Marathi, yeah? Okay, great. Only like any Maratha students here? Basically, you don't believe for every batch I'll have 5 to 6 Maratha students and Odisha students also. These are the major people like who take DevOps actually here. For every batch, I see at least 5 to 6. Some people from Nagpur and some people from Odisha. These people we have 10 to 15 for each class actually. For every batch. Okay, fine. So basically, if I have a chance, na, definitely I'll learn Maratha from you. Why? Because in Maratha also I can teach DevOps if I learn from you. So from the next batch, I'll plan. If there is any Maratha student coming to here, na, I'll try to learn Maratha from them. Okay. Okay, so now coming to the queries part. So guys, any queries from today's session or like last class session? Nothing, eh? All clear. It's like head and shoulders. All clear, huh? Guys, at least ask a few doubts for my satisfaction. Why? Because if I don't get doubts from you, I won't get satisfaction actually. See, teaching satisfaction is different, but solving the doubt satisfaction is very, very different actually. It's entire level. It's in a different way. Sir, are there any limits of Kubernetes service? Of course, every tool will have own set of limits. There is no any perfect tool in the real-time scenarios. Every tool will have its own set of limits. Okay. I'll tell what are the limits, Radhika, for you. Doubts, huh? Hmm. Siraj doubt, huh? Siraj, what is the doubt? Ask man, nothing, eh? Okay. Huh? I mean, what is that called as? What you put there? Huh? No, no, I don't know what is the meaning of the name actually. That is the reason I'm asking. Oh, okay. So you want to give Akika, na? At the time? Great. Then invite me also. I'll come. Okay. So guys, any questions or any queries? I gave time to ask doubts and queries, but what are you doing here? You can check your phones later also, na? Eh? Okay. Nothing doubts, huh? You want me to explain Poda? Definitely one more time. But Akhil, yeah, finally one doubt. Akhil, you can go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello.
Akhil, go ahead.
Yeah. You said like there are two types, right? Clustered, self-managed, and cloud.
Yes,
So mostly
yes.
we use cloud, but what the situation or scenario we use the self-managed?
So, Akhil, for example, let's say if your organization is sticking to the cloud, in your organization, like guys, listen to the question. He's asking that when to use self-managed and when to use a like cloud solutions. For example, let's take your company don't want to use any kind of third-party tools in your organization. So definitely you need to use EKS only. Why? Because KOps is third-party tool. Okay, so we cannot use. If you want to stick with the only cloud-based solutions without using any third-party tools, so in that case, EKS will be helpful. No, sir, I'm using multi-cloud. So of course I can use open source tools in my organization. It is allowed. So in that case, I can choose KOps or even EKS also. So it depends upon the client requirement, like Akhil. Hope it is clear for you.
Yeah.
Right.
In that case, you have to manage everything, like
Yes,
everything
yes,
self.
yes. But the best one, if you ask me, so I'll go and tell KOps actually because there is no
Yeah.
cost association much with the KOps, but EKS will have somewhat of costing factors. But again, both will do the same work for you. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And sir, can you please show me about Kubernetes GPT? I'll show you. But if I want to show Kubernetes GPT, first of all, we need to face any errors. Do you have any errors today? No. That is the reason I haven't shown you. In the middle of the course, I'm going to show you troubleshooting in Kubernetes. At the troubleshoot, it is a separate class actually. Okay. In the separate class, I'm going to list out all the troubleshooting. I'm going to list out all the logging and I'm going to list out all the auditing of each and every component in Kubernetes. Then I'll show you how to implement K8s GPT. The best solution is using K8s GPT, you will know what is the error and that will give a solution for the error also. You don't need to go for Google, ChatGPT, like it's not required. Everything you can do on the cluster itself. But the craziest factor is even the people who is working on real time, 90 percentage, not 90, I can say 95% don't know what is K8s GPT. You can go and check with any of the person in real time. This is the new extension that got added. So previously it was not there. It newly added few years ago only. Sir, college CGP is more important. It's a eligibility criteria. Guys, I'll tell you one thing. Your college papers are like it's base papers. You need to have 70%. That's it. You don't do anything with it. If somebody tell, if you work out on BTech, you will get good percentage, you'll get a good job. That is a bullshit thing. Your BTech percentages won't give you jobs. If BTech percentage gives you the jobs, what about the backbenchers like me? Correct or not? So your college degree just a piece of paper which gives the entrance. To enter into the interview panel, you need to have the eligibility criteria. But 70% is the best eligibility criteria I can say. Minimum 70 is required for everyone. Of course, in some companies will go for 80 also. I don't know what they will do with 80%. And I'll tell you one thing. Some people might get this doubt also, sir. For example, like I have a good, what do we call this one? I have a good percentage in my academics, but unfortunately, I'm not from IT. I'm from non-IT. So in that case, what I want to do? Have you got any kind of doubt like this? Yes or no? No? Wait, let me show you something. Okay, I have my LinkedIn profile here, right? Okay, let me show you something that happened today actually. So we have a person called Srinath actually. His name is Srinath God actually. Let me show. So basically, he is the person from non-IT. Let me tell the craziest story. He got job couple of days ago. How he got job, you know? He went to the like company to drop his friend actually. Unfortunately, he thought that like why can't I go and why can't I? He's my student only. He gone to the interview with slippers and one t-shirt. I spoken with him just now our class before our class. He said that sir, I just prepared the subject I know, but intentionally I haven't gone for the interview. So I gone for the interview and I cracked the exam. Like interview. And one of the thing is the interview was taken by the team leader who is having 7 years of experience. And the first question they asked is explain Kubernetes architecture. He explained starting point end to end. After listening for 2 to 3 minutes, the team leader said, okay, it's stop. It's enough. Because he got to know that by explaining the architecture, he got to know that, okay, he's having some perfect skills. So after that, he asked some other questions in Kubernetes. He answered them very, very easily. So after that, he got a package. And the craziest factor is he is from non-IT background. He's from MCA. Which one? And the person is also not that much of good percentage. And English also manageable English, not very, very highly sophisticated language. But yet he got the job. Why? Because skills. Your skills matter. Which one? Sir, don't tell the excuse. Sir, I am not from BTech. I don't have 70 percentage. My language is not good. These are all your excuses. Your excuses won't give you a job, man. Only your efforts will give it. If you keep going with excuses, how many days you can give excuses? 1 day, 1 month, or 1 year. What about next? Of course, everybody will have their own problems. I can understand that one. But the thing is, first thing you need to make your efforts good. If your efforts are good, if not now, after some other days, you'll get the job. But the first step into took is your efforts should be very, very intense. He completed the course on the December month, I think so. December or January, I think so. January, not December. It's been almost for 6 months, right? From then, continuously he's coming to the lab, he's practicing everything. Now finally he got the opportunity. And some of the jobs where he gone, he was rejected based upon his criteria. Because he's not from BTech now. But he still haven't gave up. He worked hard and finally achieved. Before this also, I showed you Ramu profile. Ramu like 6 LPA, right? He's also from non-IT only. So don't make sir, I'm not from non-IT. I'm not from IT. I won't get the job. Don't think like this. Even for IT or non-IT, you have a lot of jobs. And all these people place it as a freshers, not experienced guys. Okay. Some people will promote some fake things. For fresher, there is no DevOps jobs. For fresher, there is no scope of DevOps. Of course, if for fresher, if there is no scope and there is no jobs, where all the DevOps engineers coming from? Are they coming from heaven or like hell? Everybody need to start as a fresher only. Even the person who is working on a big company as a team leader, team manager, once he was a fresher. Okay. So here the quotation is wrong actually, whatever the code they are following. DevOps is not for fresher. That is the quotation they are using. Let me show you the perfect thing for you. I'll show this one. Why? Because I have experienced a lot with this. I have seen this kind of quotes. DevOps is not for freshers. This is promoting on the LinkedIn actually. Okay. In LinkedIn public platform, they are telling DevOps is not for fresher. But if you ask me, it is wrong actually. It's wrong. The correct word is DevOps is not for unskilled person. It is the right word if you ask. Lot of people will think for fresher there is no skills. But every fresher is not the same way, right? Every person, you cannot blame all the fresher depending upon one person. Of course, one person might got the job as a DevOps. He might not have the skills, but you cannot blame all the freshers like him only. It depends upon the place where you are going to train actually. All the institutes will not give the same training, right? So don't believe these kind of things in the LinkedIn, okay? So just be consistent and work hard. So ultimately, our Nareshate is gonna provide placement for all of you, okay, at the end of the course. That we can give guarantee. Yes, sir. Even I started my career as a DevOps engineer without any DevOps knowledge interview. Went to core Java, but unfortunately, I got onboarded into DevOps directly. Yeah, you can see like one of the live example from our student only. Okay. So I will suggest everyone to keep focus on the positive and not on the negative side. Okay. There are a lot of people who spread negativity, but there are only few people who spread positivity. Don't go for negativity. Okay. Stay focused toward positivity. That's it. Yeah. Thanks, Swatia. Thanks for sharing your experience. Bye. Okay then. So are we good for today? Any doubts or any queries still? Okay then. So let's meet on tomorrow's session with some new topic. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you. Thank you everyone. And I'm going to upload the notes on Google Classroom. You can check it out. Yes, tomorrow we do have class.